Chapter 2. Marriage and Celibacy. One of God's first laws and commandments to man was marriage. And from the Garden of Eden to the present time, God has continued to sanction and bless those who have honored this covenant. Marriage, solemnized by God in the beginning, was established with a divine acceptance for the purpose of propagation of the species, for mutual help, and for comfort and companionship. It was a union so sacred and spiritual in its nature that the man and woman were to become one flesh. Gen. 2:24. Matt. 19:5. This inseparable union is spirituality illustrated in a similar comparison with Christ to his church. F. 5:30. And God has throughout history given many laws and commandments concerning marriage, not restraining marriage, but rather restricting anything that would break the bonds of marriage, viz., fornication, adultery, whoredom, etc. Among these perils to marriage was celibacy, state of being unmarried, which was never an acceptable practice in ancient Israel, nor in early Christianity, but rather a doctrine of the pagans, until it became incorporated into an apostate Christianity. By its nature, celibacy contributes little to the quality or character in man, much less in a woman, because fruitful propagation of the species is contributory, barrenness in anything tends to extinction. Paul foresaw the apostasy of Christianity, and warned the members of the church concerning these events. Celibacy, among other things, was a doctrine of devils. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly, that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits, and doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry, and commanding to abstain from meats, which God hath created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. I Tim. 4:1-3. Interpolation of the Scriptures became a fertile field for harvesting of alien philosophies and ideologies. This later became the doctrinal law of the apostate church. Under the influence of Greek Gnostic thinking and Roman traditional laws, the principles of Christianity suffered worse than through centuries of barbaric persecution. Superstition and useless ritualism replaced divine revelation. Then from among these amalgamated substitutions for the gospel, came our time-honored traditions of history, which were so far from the original teachings, that when some of the truthful remains of the Scriptures were found, it caused a reformation. Celibacy had become such a dominant law of the prevailing church that it required hiding the Scriptures from lay members. Indeed, in some cases the laws of God had to be modified or thrown aside to corroborate with the later doctrinal innovations. Nephi had been instructed by an angel that such things would occur. And the angel of the Lord said unto me, Thou hast beheld that the book proceeded forth from the mouth of a Jew, and when it proceeded forth from the mouth of a Jew, it contained the plainness of the gospel of the Lord, of whom the 12 apostles bear record, and they bear record according to the truth which is in the Lamb of God. Wherefore, these things go forth from the Jews in purity unto the Gentiles, according to the truth which is in God. And after they go forth by the hand of the 12 apostles of the Lamb, from the Jews unto the Gentiles, thou seest the foundation of a great and abominable church, which is most abominable above all other churches, for behold, they have taken away from the gospel of the Lamb many parts which are plain and most precious, and also many covenants of the Lord have they taken away. And all this have they done that they might pervert the right ways of the Lord, that they might blind the eyes and harden the hearts of the children of men. Wherefore, thou seest that after the book hath gone forth through the hands of the great and abominable church, that there are many plain and precious things taken away from the book, which is the book of the Lamb of God. And after these plain and precious things were taken away, it goeth forth unto all the nations of the Gentiles, and after it goeth forth unto all the nations of the Gentiles, yea, even across the many waters which thou hast seen with the Gentiles which have gone forth out of captivity, thou seest because of the many plain and precious things which have been taken out of the book, which were plain unto the understanding of the children of men, according to the plainness which is the Lamb of God. Because of these things, which are taken away out of the gospel of the Lamb, an exceeding great many do stumble, yea, insomuch that Satan hath great power over them. I Nephi 13:24-29. From the age of 12 to 30, a gap of 18 years, the scriptural history or the life of Jesus is missing. That he grew in wisdom is an extremely insufficient record in the life of one so important as the Redeemer of the world. John the Beloved wrote about the words and deeds of Jesus sufficient to fill libraries. John 21:25. From this testimony we can be reasonably sure that much more was written in the life of Jesus than that contained in the few pages of the 4 Gospels. Even many other known books of the New Testament are missing. An earlier epistle of Paul to the Corinthians. I Cor. 0.59. Another epistle of Paul to the Ephesians. F. 3:3. An epistle of Paul from Laodicea. Colonel 4:16. A former epistle of Jude. Jude 1:3. Prophecies of Enoch. Jude 1:14. Because great portions of the story of Christianity have been lost, discarded, or altered, the true facts are difficult, if not impossible, to find. And to these hazy scraps of history, apostasy has added dogmas, rituals, and the traditions of men. The voice of Protestantism declared the error of this historical patchwork of human creations. Throughout the centuries of time, these traditions evolved into church law, and that law, in turn, was advocated as historical fact. The real facts remain like a skeleton of the original structure of Christianity. So aloof from the real truth are these traditions that facts appear strange, if not erroneous, when brought to light. The history of the marriage law of Christianity is not valid as it has come down through centuries of traditional customs, philosophies, and man-managing, especially through channels which have corrupted almost every other doctrine and ordinance of a sacred gospel. The laws of the marriage covenant have become as perverted as any other part of our religious history. Through the traditions and assumptions of men, celibacy became not only an accepted doctrine of the Church for men and women, but even for Christ. Fundamentally, the question is not what proof do we have that Jesus was married, but rather, where is there any proof that celibacy was a doctrinal law of God?